أشهد أن لا إله إلا
I have been doing this like ghusl workshop coverage in many different masajids, right? Yeah. And every time it's a different kind of experience. Some of the funeral directors are so calm. Like, how do you do that? Like, what keeps you composed? Like,
easy. Just subhanallah, you know that it comes from Allah, man. Like Allah gives you the sakinah. Like I was talking about tranquility. You can't buy tranquility, brother. When you are at peace with yourself, then you have sakinah. And sakinah just makes you like a king in the sense of, I don't need to impress anyone. I don't need to be noisy. I don't need this or that. I've cut off from the world. But I'm still in the world. I'm still alive. But I'm cut from the world. I'm disconnected from the world and connected with the hereafter. And that's the soul.
Out of all the bodies that you've washed, can you remember one that impacted you the most and why? Like, can you pick maybe one out that you...
Yeah, my father.
Oh, may Allah bless
This is the man who smacked me, raised me, chased me. Allah reward you, brother.
I'm going to grab that in a second if that's all right. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
My father's wash was the hardest wash I ever did. This is the one who brought me to the world. This is the one who held me when I was a baby. And now you're washing him. Now you're putting him in the grave. It will never leave my mind. Yeah, I still cry when I watch the videos again, you know. My mum died 4 years ago and I still cry when I see her videos. My parents, man.
The bit where it touched me, alhamdulillah, was the bit where you mentioned that some of our parents were still alive. Wallahi, we take it for granted, right? When they're alive?
Brother, it's not just that you take it for granted. The more you take it for granted, the more regrets you're going to have when you visit the grave. Because when you visit their grave and you read their name on a headstone, you're going to, every single moment you neglected them is going to come back in your mind. And I'll remind you, every single person that is listening to this will say, yeah, you're right. Because you couldn't visit them when they were alive in the world, but now you want to go to visit a mount of dirt. This is yani, a calamity. And if they were to die and you were good to them and you'd spent time with them, it's a qadar. It has to be done, ordained decree. But when you know you've neglected them and they die, you never forgive yourself, bro. Don't put yourself in that position. Don't show up to a grave and talk to a headstone. Talk to them now while they're alive, because they need it, bro. Alhamdulillah.
Have you ever watched someone who reminded you of yourself, and did it change anything in your life?
When you watch friends that you grew up with, went to school with, played handball with, you know, just like you, and I watch them and I think, why am I still here? Why haven't I passed? They're passing, and then I see their kids, see their wife. Okay, how are they going to go home to an empty house now? The father is the lion of the house, is the man of the house, is the figure of the house. These kids have no one to look up to. I've watched mates that have lost, died 10 years ago, and their kids were younger, and now I see their kids are young adults, and I'll never forget them. And I always grab him, I always hug him, I tell him, your dad was a champion, make the dua for him, don't forget him. And that's what we live in, man. This is community, this is Islam.
What advice could you give to those who have to go back home after that and they see their possessions of their fathers, their mothers, and they don't know what to do with it? Like, what? You can't, how can you change someone's bedroom? How can you put someone's belongings away? What do they do with these things?
Look, al-mawtu haq, death is truth, and it's a decree that has to be ordained, and we have to accept it. And we can only say what pleases Allah. Subhanallah, we only say what pleases Allah at the time of death, and that is, hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel, inna Allah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, to Allah we belong, and to Allah we shall return. It's hard. I'm not going to make it easy. Until now, I see, the stuff my mum had, and you never forget, man. You remember those moments. But as a Muslim, we have to accept them, and we have to say, they're in a better place. But you have that trump card, man. Make the offer them, raise their ranks, give them gifts in their barzakh life from your dua. But it's not easy. It's never easy, bro, because they live on in us. The materialistic things go, but they live on, and And that's only the parents have that rahmah. And it's in us, subhanAllah.
Jazakallah khair, my brother. Really appreciate that. May Allah bless you.
Allah bless you too,
And make dua for us, akhi.
Inshallah,
Make dua for us.
Alhamdulillah.
My brothers and sisters, honestly, right? Every time I watch these brothers' video, I'm not just saying about the videos, even though we're like, 13, 14 hours apart, many thousand miles apart, wallahi, right? It's only when moments like this, when we're at this ghusl workshop, when we're seeing in a demonstration, wallahi, we just sit there and we think, this is going to be me tomorrow, this is my mum, this is my dad. And what do I do in that situation? We could be prepped all we want, but when that situation happens, it falls upon us, right? And yes, we need to have our uncles, our brothers to support us. And I'm going to ask you one last question, Akhi. This is from myself. Right? Somebody asked me this question yesterday. There are many brothers and sisters, when it comes to the time of burial, wallahi, brothers, Akhi, they cut corners. They want to bury them as cheap as possible. They bury them in an English cemetery where they have to bury them in a coffin because that's the protocols. What would you advise? These mothers and fathers, they brought you up.
My advice to those people is, sooner or later you're going to be in that position and you're going to be classed as a deceased, and someone will do that to you. And then you'll realize in the grave that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you exactly what you gave your parents, that you didn't get your haqq. You are a sadaqah for your parents. So what you do is you bury them according to the prophets, the way he taught us, and according to sunnatullah. And that is, you put them in the ground facing Qibla in the shroud and in an Islamic cemetery for rahmah. Because guess what, when you're not around anymore, Muslims still visit those cemeteries, and Muslims make generic dua for everybody in there.
That's correct.
So you do yourself a favor and don't cut that corner, because that money, believe me, that money that you put on them in a Muslim cemetery, Allah will give you barakah in it. The ones out there cutting corners or doing cheap sadaqahs or that on their parents, just remember who gave you that money. Allah gave you that money, and Allah will take that money back off you.
Jazakallah khair, my brother. Once again,
Allah
thanks so much.
No worries,